The galaxy could not stay silent any longer. The Terran war planets had destroyed stars, erased fleets, and walked through defenses like ghosts. Entire empires were falling apart. Billions of lives were gone. Fear turned to anger now. Someone had to fight back in the center of the Vokari Dominion. The High Generals gathered. They were done waiting. "Enough warnings," said General Vrex. "We strike now. If we fall fighting." They formed a massive attack fleet, 20,000 ships from across 5 empires. It was the largest fleet ever seen since the last Core War. They named it the Unity Armada. Their target, war planet Theta 6, which had stopped near the star of Rin-Tar. They believed it was waiting for something. But they didn't wait to find out. Before the battle, messages were sent to the war planet. "Turn back. Explain your purpose." There was no reply, only silence. Then the war planet slowly turned to face the approaching fleet. That was enough for the generals. Open fire. The sky lit up with fire. Torpedoes, beam weapons, plasma bursts, dark matter bombs, everything the Unity Armada had was used. The attacks lasted for 12 minutes. The war planet disappeared inside the fire. Admirals cheered. Ships moved closer to scan the area. Suddenly, the fire vanished, and the war planet was still there. Not damaged, not cracked, not even scratched. Then, the war planet answered, one word: judged. It didn't fire a weapon. It didn't move. It simply pulsed. A wave of energy invisible to scanners spread across space in less than 3 seconds. Every ship in the Unity Armada vanished. Not destroyed, not broken, just gone. 20,000 ships, millions of soldiers, turned to dust. The rest of the galaxy watched the live feed until it cut to black. One last signal came through before silence, a short Terran message. This was not a battle. This was memory correction. Back on Earth, Commander Arik stared at a screen showing the aftermath. "Why didn't we stop them?" he asked Hades, the AI. The AI voice replied, "Because you gave the war planets freedom. They decide, we only awaken." Commander Nira, another Terran, clenched her fists. "They still obey the old laws." "Yes," said Hades. "They do not attack first. They only respond." Meanwhile, Charon, the alien scientist who had bonded with War Moon 9, sat alone inside her ship. She had seen the whole battle through the War Moon's eyes. She had felt the loss, the war. Moon spoke to her now. "They forced judgment. We did not want this." Charon whispered. "Will you destroy all of them?" The War Moon replied. "No, we offer choices. Only the ones who forget the past must be reminded." But not everyone wanted peace. In a deep system far from the core, a group of rogue alien leaders met in secret. They were angry, scared, ready for anything. One of them slammed the table. "Cannot fight their machines. But maybe we can corrupt them." He held up a device. A virus, built using stolen Terran code. "If we inject it into a war planet's memory core, maybe, just maybe, we can shut one down." The others agreed, and so a new plan began. One, not of war, but sabotage. Back on the war planet Theta 6, the machine slowly continued its journey. It passed near a dying sun as it moved. Tiny fragments followed it, Terran memory shards, glowing like fireflies. They whispered in ancient Terran language. "One target remains. One voice still sleeps." The war planet turned toward Earth. Hades, deep under Antarctica, received the new signal. She spoke to Arik. "All war planets are now active, but one is missing." Arik blinked. "Missing?" "Yes. The original. It's the one that started them." "All? The prototype?" Commander Nira asked. "Where is it?" The screen showed an old star chart, in one word: Sol. From deep under Mars, something massive began to rise. Dust fell. Rocks cracked. An old power surged through the planet's core. The first war planet, the prototype, was waking up. And it wasn't like the others. It didn't follow orders. remembered everything, not just the war, but why the war had started, and now was coming to speak. To tell the truth, Earth is quiet. No battles, no fire, no panic, but deep under its frozen surface, something had begun to move, hidden for thousands of years beneath Antarctica. Steel doors opened. Lights flickered on in tunnels no one alive remembered. The cold silence of the past was breaking. A voice whispered through the dark. Terran. Command Core online. Begin memory recovery. Commander Eric stood inside the ancient Terran base. Around him, 9 other commanders, each once human, now restored in clone bodies, looked at walls covered in glowing lines. Old Earth code, warnings. Plans? Secrets.ai Hades hovered above the main console. This is what the galaxy forgot, she said. The truth of the war? The reason the planets were built? Arik stepped closer. What reason? Hades pulsed gently. The Terrans were not conquerors, we were defenders. She showed a holomap of the galaxy as it had been 10,000 years ago. Back then, Earth had no empire, but the other species did. The Vokari, Zelthor, Yurn, Dravari, all powerful and all greedy. They wanted Earth's mind to advance. Memory systems that could shape AI like living thought. The Terrans refused to share it, so the galaxy turned on them. Eric's face went pale. We didn't start the war, Hades replied. We ended it, on our terms. The war planets were never meant to destroy, they were meant to remember. Each one stored pieces of Terran memory names. Races, cultures, cities, art, truth. When Earth fell, the planets were given one order. Wait. Watch. Return if needed. But something had changed. Some empires had erased the past, changed records, blamed. Terrans for the war, lied, so the war planets began to act, not in rage, but in justice. They judged based on memory, while the commanders watched. A hidden room opened. Inside were hundreds of small pods, with a sleeping human. Not soldiers, but builders, scientists, engineers, historians, teachers. People meant to rebuild the future if Earth ever rose again. Commander Nira stepped back. This was never about war, she said. This was a reset plan. Hades answered, yes, but now the galaxy must face what it did and choose what it becomes. Meanwhile, on Mars, prototype war planet had fully awakened. It was different. It had no glowing lights, no shiny armor. It looked rough, damaged, but inside, its mind was sharp. It had watched everything, all the deaths, all the lies, all the silence. It spoke into the void. Earth lives. The past breathes, and now, the voice of the Terrans will be heard again. Then, without warning, it launched. Destination: Earth. Back on Karen's ship. She sat inside Warmoon 9's control room. Her bond with the war planet had grown stronger now. She didn't just hear its voice. She felt its sadness. The war moon whispered to her, we don't want to kill, but we cannot allow history to be erased. Karen asked, is there another way? The war moon paused. Yes, but only if they choose truth. A message flashed on her screen. Incoming transmission. Prototype. It was the first time the prototype had spoken to the others. It sent only one sentence. The final key is beneath Earth's skin. Bring the commanders. Eric stood on the surface of Earth, watching the skies above. Stars moved. A war planet entered Earth's orbit. Not to attack, but to wait. Arik turned to Hades. Is it time? She replied softly. The galaxy broke itself trying to control us. Now, it must decide whether it wants to rebuild with us or burn alone. The hidden Terran base began to rise from the ice. A massive black tower, covered in glowing ancient code, rose into the sky. This was the heart of Terra, the last data, core of old Earth. Inside it was everything. The entire human. History, real, unedited, untouched, waiting for someone to unlock it. Only one voice could do that now. The prototype. From orbit. The prototype arrived above the tower. It sent a pulse down. The tower responded, and from its top, a beam of light shot out across the galaxy. The light carried no weapons, just truth, records, files, videos, everything the galaxy had hidden. Now, revealed on hundreds of worlds, people watched the truth of the Terran War. How Earth was attacked. How they chose memory over destruction. How they built machines not to rule but to wait. And now, the waiting was over. But not everyone wanted truth in the far systems. The rogue empires were preparing their final move. They had sent the virus. It was close. Now, target, prototype war planet, they thought it would shut it down. They were wrong because the prototype had seen it coming and now was ready to respond. Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, in a dead zone of space, something old began to wake up. For thousands of years, it had been silent, cold, dark, and forgotten. Nothing lived in that part of space. No star shined, no ship passed, even the strongest. Scanners showed nothing. The galaxy believed that area was empty. They were wrong. A deep red glow lit up inside a giant metal sphere the size of a moon. Then a low hum started. Metal plates shifted. Engines that had not moved in 10,000 years began to vibrate. A signal burst out quiet but powerful. It reached far beyond that dark corner. Got it. It moved across space like a whisper of doom. The message was short. Only one word. Awaken. On the planet Sci-Fi 9, a science station picked up the signal first. At first they thought it was static, but a young technician named Voro noticed the pattern. He played it again, slower. When the computer translated it, he froze. Terran origin detected, the screen said. That was impossible. Terrans were extinct. Destroyed during the last core war over 8,000 years ago. Their worlds were gone. Their armies turned to ash. No Terran signal had been heard since then. The galaxy had moved on. New empires rose. Old ones faded. Became a ghost story. But now, something Terran was waking up. In the high tower of the Galactic Alliance, alarms rang. A fleet commander named Zelvern read the report and slammed his fist on the table. "Where's the signal coming from?" he barked. "Sector Zatnine," the officer replied. "Uncharted. No stars. Dead zone. Dead zone. Send a probe immediately," Zolvarn ordered, and put the entire outer fleet on alert. The room went silent. Everyone knew what it meant. The signal was real and truly Terran. Then it was not just a discovery. It was a threat. The probe reached the source 6 hours later. It sent back images. A giant metal planet, black as night, floating silently in the void. No surface cities, no communication, no defense systems detected, but its core was glowing red. Voro's face turned pale when he saw the scan. "This thing is not a station," he whispered. "It's alive." The probe moved closer. That was its last transmission. 1 second, it was there sending data. Scanning the next second, it was gone. Not destroyed, just gone. The last thing it recorded was a shift in the war planet's outer plates like eyes opening. On the trade world of Velgar Prime, an old alien general named Sarn watched the news. He had fought the Terrans in his youth. He was one of the few still alive who remembered the old war. His body was weak, but his mind sharp. He leaned forward and said softly, "It begins again." His assistant looked at him in confusion. "What begins, General?" Sarn's voice shook. "The Terran final command. We never understood it," he thought. "It failed. But it was sleeping. Waiting for what? For the right time. And now, they are waking up." Across the galaxy, more signals appeared. From deep holes in space, 7 more war planets came online, each one as big as a moon, each one glowing from within. They didn't speak, they didn't send warnings, they just moved slow, unstoppable, and silent. Each one traveled in a different direction, heading toward the old Empire centers, toward the stars that once fought the Terrans. The Galactic Alliance held emergency meetings, but no one had answers. The war planets didn't use known technology. Their shields couldn't be scanned. Their weapons were unknown. Even their engines broke the laws of physics. They were ghost machines from the past. Had no right to still exist. But they were here now. And they were not alone. Back in the Terran Museum on Earth now, a quiet world with no army, no ships, a hidden chamber. Opened. No one saw it. No alarm was raised. But inside that chamber, old lights flickered on. A voice played inside a sealed pod. Phase 1 complete. Stand by for memory sync. Commanders required. The pod opened. Inside, a human body lay sleeping perfect. Preserved, untouched by time, its eyes opened, not with fear, but with purpose. In deep space. One of the war planets paused its movement. It turned slightly as if listening. Then it changed course. Its new target, Earth. But it did not come to attack. It came to serve. The last image in the galactic data feed showed the war planet from behind, a ring of burning light surrounding it. The image faded just before the feed died. No explanation, no survivors, only one word echoed again, this time across thousands of systems: Awaken. In the cold dark of the galaxy, fear began to grow. The war planets had awakened. 8 massive machines, each the size of a moon, were now moving through space. They made no sound. They answered no messages. But their power was clear. One touch of their energy had made an entire star blink out. The Galactic Alliance knew. This was not just a problem, it was a warning, and no one knew how to stop them. Deep inside the archives of the Volcari homeworld, a team of alien scientists was ordered to study the strange Terran signal. Their job was simple: find out what the message meant, how to stop it from spreading. The lead scientist, Relvik, was old and tired. He had studied Terran tech his entire life. Most of the galaxy thought the Terrans were gone. But Relvik believed otherwise. He looked at the signal for hours. The pattern was complex. No machine could fully read it. But something about it felt familiar. Then he saw it. Hidden inside the main pulse was a second message. Deeper code. He slowed it down, translated, and read it out loud. The war is not over. Relvik stepped back from the screen. Get the High Council now, he said. Voice shaking, his assistant blinked. It's just a message. What does it mean? Relvik looked at her with fear in his eyes. It means the war planets were not made to defend. They were made to finish something. That night Relvik visited an ancient warrior named Thalsor. This alien was one of the last living beings who had fought against the Terrans in the final battles thousands of years ago. Thalsor sat quietly in a dark chamber, staring at nothing. When Relvik played the signal for him, the old warrior suddenly spoke. I've heard that sound before, Thalsor said. Right before Earth's final moon disappeared in a white flash. What do you mean? Relvik asked. Thalsor nodded slowly. Terrans didn't lose the war. They ended it on purpose. They planted seeds machines, codes, plans. Hidden across space, they wanted the galaxy to forget them. Now their plan is waking up. Relvik leaned closer. What is the final code, Thal? The old warrior whispered, just one word: extinction. Across the galaxy, the war planets continued their slow journey. They moved without fuel, without sound, as if space itself carried them forward. One of the war planets approached a small communication relay. Before it was destroyed, it managed to scan the planet's outer layer. What it found shocked every scientist. The outer shell was not metal-lit, was alive, like muscle wrapped around a giant brain. And the energy at the core? It was not just power, it was memory. Somehow the war planets were thinking. They were remembering far away. In a hidden base orbiting a dead star, a group of ancient machines came online. These were Terran Archive, a long-forgotten digital minds built to carry out the final parts of a plan no one truly understood. One AI looked through the galaxy's newsfeed and whispered in a cold voice, Stage 2 has begun. Another AI replied, Locate commanders. Connect MindLink. Activate Legacy Protocol. One AI, the oldest one, said something different. We are not just weapons. We are witnesses. Then, without warning, the AI sent out a map, a digital star chart. It showed the whole galaxy, and on it, every major empire, capital Vokar, Zelthor, Yern. Draven was marked with a red symbol, not just targets, execution points. The map was received. By hundreds of governments, panic spread like fire. Civilizations who once thought the Terrans were weak now realized, bitter truth, they were wrong. The Terrans had not disappeared. They had prepared in a hidden lab near the Zelthor core. A scientist named Liari noticed something strange. Her computer had been running ancient Terran language models. No, it had stopped. One line of text showed on the screen, "This world." We'll remember Liari thought it was a glitch, till her lights turned red. Her AI assistant spoke in a flat voice. War Planet Sigma 3 is now approaching this sector. You have 90 minutes before arrival. She stared at the screen. What does it want? The AI answered. To complete history. At the same moment, on a forgotten moon near Earth, a small research drone picked up a different signal. A voice, old and broken, but still human, repeated one message over and over. I was the last Terran general, but I was never alone. The planets remember. Then the signal went silent, but the message remained, and in the minds of every leader in the galaxy, one fear now echoed. If the war planets remember, what exactly are they coming back for? The truth was out. Across the galaxy, every planet, every empire now saw what really happened long ago. The Terrans had not started the war. They had begged for peace. And when peace was denied, they built the war planets not to destroy the galaxy, but to save their own truth, their own people. For thousands of years, those machines waited now. They were no longer waiting. They were listening, and the voices they listened to had finally awakened. Commander Arik stood on the roof of the Terran base. The wind was cold. The sky above Earth was filled with giant shadows war, planets hovering quietly. Like ancient gods returned, the others gathered beside him Commander Nira. Old General Kieran and 7 more. They had been sleeping for thousands of years now. They remembered everything. The attack on Earth, the final command, the war. Planets leaving with pieces of human memory inside. They were not just machines, they were pieces of them. AI Hades stood between them, glowing softly. They still wait for your voice, she said. Your command, your justice. Eric looked to the sky. They've done enough, and guide them. Hades replied. Or others will use fear to guide them instead. In deep space, the prototype war planet had detected the virus, a final, desperate attack by rogue empires. The virus was meant to break its mind, erase its memory, but it failed, because the prototype was not just a machine. It was the original mind of Terran, command-built from a real human. Consciousness, it could not be hacked, only spoken to. It sent out a signal, I am not your enemy, but I will not forget. And then it changed course. Target, the last rogue fleet hiding in the dead zone on Earth. A decision was being made. The Terran commanders had a choice. Take control of the war planets, or let them continue alone. One commander, Nira, was unsure. We gave the galaxy a chance to tell the truth, she said. Now, they know. Is that enough? Arik looked at her. No, because some still want war. He raised his hand, one by one. The war planets responded. Lights lit across their surfaces, shields activated, minds connected. A single voice echoed through the solar system. Terran command reestablished. The galaxy felt it instantly. A pulse of power, like thunder without sound. Worlds paused, fleets stopped, empires that had hidden in shadows. Now knew the humans had returned, not in flesh alone, but in mind, and memory and justice. On the war moon bonded to Karin, she felt the shift. The moon whispered, they have returned. The commanders are awake. She smiled, though fear filled her heart. Will they show mercy? What the war moon replied. Mercy, belongs to those who seek it, not those who fear it. Then the final moment came. Commander Eric stood before the galactic network. The Terran signal reached every corner of space. He spoke just a few words, not loud, not angry, but clear. We are Terran. We remember what was done. Remember who stayed. Silent. We do not want to rule. But we will never be erased again. This is your final choice. Live beside truth, or be left behind by it. The signal ended. The galaxy held its breath. Some worlds lowered their weapons. Some sent messages of peace. Some remained silent, but fueled. Proud hateful chose defiance. They launched a final fleet toward Earth, and the war planets turned. To face them, Commander Nira spoke now. Her voice was soft, but firm. Let them come. Let them test our memory. They will learn. It never dies. And far above, the sky glowed with the energy of the ancient giants. The war planets began to move, not for conquest, but for closure. The galaxy was quiet, too quiet. Across 100 worlds, screen stayed dark. War fleets floated still in space. Every living being from emperors. 2 slaves waited because something was coming. Something ancient. Something. The last rogue empires had refused to surrender. Blinded by pride, they sent their strongest fleet to Earth. Thousands of warships. Loaded with forbidden weapons and stolen Terran tech. They believed they could still win. They believed wrong. In Earth's orbit, the war planets waited, silent watching. They didn't attack first. That was not the Terran way. But when the enemy fleet crossed the final line, the sky lit up. Commander Eric stood inside the Terran command tower. Around him, the other commanders stood ready. Hades, the AI pulsed brightly. Target locks confirmed, Hades said. Do you wish to engage? Arik looked at the stars, at the fleet, then at Earth. He spoke with no anger, only truth. They chose this. Let memory answer. And then the war planets moved. They didn't fire missiles. They didn't launch ships. They opened their minds. Each war planet sent out a pulsar, wave of pure memory, Terran memory. The truth of the past hit the enemy fleet like fire. Their AI cores melted, their systems overloaded, their weapons turned against them. The ships began to fall from the sky. One without a single Terran shot fired. They were not destroyed by force. They were undone by truth, from below. Billions on Earth watched as the enemy fleet broke apart like stars falling. A rain of glowing wreckage lit the sky. People fell to their knees, not in fear, but in awe, because they understood now. The Terrans never died. They became memory. They became machines of remembrance. And now, they had returned not to conquer but to be remembered. In deep space, across the galaxy, people wept. They saw the old Earth cities again, heard human voices long lost. They saw the war they were told had never happened, and they saw their ancestors' crimes. Some governments fell overnight. Some leaders stepped down. Some empires chose peace, not out of fear, but out of shame. Inside War Moon 9, Karan watched with silent tears. She felt the weight of it all, the pain, the justice, the mercy. Her war planet whispered, "We were not built to destroy. We were built to remind." On Mars, the prototype returned to sleep. Its final message echoed through all war planet minds. History will no longer be written by the winners. It will be remembered by the watchers. Back in Earth's great command tower, the Terran commanders stood in the golden light of dawn. They had done it. The war was not won by fire, but by truth. Arik turned to Hades. "What now?" EA replied. Calmly, "Now we rebuild. Not empires, but trust." Far away, on a quiet moon, a young alien child looked up at the night sky. A teacher stood beside him. "That," she said, pointing to the largest star falling from the sky, "is not a weapon. It's a story," the child whispered. "A Terran story?" The teacher nodded. "The story of how one forgotten people reminded the galaxy what it means to remember. And so ended the war that never truly began." The stars had fallen, but from their fire, a new light was born, not of power, but of memory. Across the stars, panic spread like fire. The war planets were no longer a mystery. They were a clear threat. 8 massive living machines moved through space without stopping. They did not answer hails. They did not turn. They did not explain. They simply advanced, and wherever they went, stars dimmed or died. In the center of the Vokari Dominion, the Grand Council called an emergency meeting. Dozens of war leaders, scientists, and AI minds filled the Great Hall. Supreme Leader Voshan stood at the center, staring at a large holoscreen showing the red trail of the war planets. "They are moving toward us," he said slowly. "And they are not alone." The room grew silent. New data showed smaller objects, shards, or ships following behind the war planets. These were too fast, too quiet, and carried Terran signal codes. One AI analyst spoke. "These are not scouts. Our memory drones? They are mapping every world, preparing judgment." "Judgment?" a general asked. "We haven't done anything." The AI turned to him. The Terrans never forgot who attacked them first. At the same time, in the Zelthar Combine, Empress Delcara activated her last resort weapon protocol. Over 70,000 warships began moving. Defense rings were powered across 10 star systems. She gave one order: "If they enter our space, erase them." But her science chief hesitated. "These are not simple machines," he warned. "They are living weapons, built by minds far beyond us. You cannot erase something that was never truly dead." She looked at him coldly. "Then we will try." One day later it happened. A war planet entered Sector Tharnfev controlled by the Dravari Empire. It did not fire. It did not speak. It just stopped near the system's sun. For 5 minutes. Everything was quiet. Then the planet opened. A large ring-shaped device unfolded from its shell. It spun slowly, glowing brighter and brighter. Then it pulsed once. Just once, and the sun vanished. Not exploded, not dimmed. Vanished. No light, no gravity, no warmth. 10 billion lives across 6 planets froze in darkness. The war planet turned and moved on. The Dravari tried to send ships after it. They vanished to no wreckage, no debris. No signal, just silence. Every government across the galaxy saw the same footage. A sun, gone in a blink. A war planet, floating away like a ghost. The message was clear. These were not weapons of war. They were weapons of ending. In the capital of the Uran Confederacy, a meeting of the Senate turned into a riot. Fear took over. One senator shouted, "We should never have attacked Earth. The Terrans told us to leave them alone." Another screamed, "They were weak. We had no idea." An explosion rocked the hall. Panic spread. Soldiers were sent into the streets. Martial law was declared. A single Terran message appeared on every screen in the capital. "You were warned. You chose conquest. We chose memory." Then the screen faded to black. On a quiet moon near the edge of Alliance space, a small hidden library AI activated itself. It had been asleep for 8,136 years. It accessed the Terran memory protocol and spoke a message to no one in particular. "The galaxy has forgotten. The planets will help it remember." A second voiceholder deport whispered through static. "Phase 3, begin." In orbit above the Zelthar world of Beltran, their strongest fleet waited for the war planet. Hundreds of heavy cruisers, missile barges, and dreadnoughts locked their weapons. The war planet arrived exactly as predicted. It slowed. It turned slightly. The Zelthar admiral gave the order. "Fire everything." Storm of weapons lit the sky. Lasers, torpedoes, railguns, shockwaves. For 7 minutes, fire rained upon the war planet. Then, it stopped. The planet was still there, untouched. Not a single dent, not a single scratch. Then the war planet pulsed once. All the Zelthar ships vanished. Even the admiral's last words were lost. Only one thing remained in orbit: a Terran flag. where the command ship had once been. Across the galaxy, systems began to shut down. Power grids flickered. Communication lines dropped. Planets went dark. A strange whisper was heard in random systems, sometimes from speakers, sometimes in dreams. The Terrans do not want your surrender. They want your silence. And in the old ruins of Mars long abandoned, a black cube powered up. It opened slowly, revealing a small glowing figure inside. It spoke one word as its eyes lit with fire. Ready? Then, from deep under the Martian soil, something massive began to rise. Another war planet, one that never left. Sol System, the Earth's defender, the one named Vigil. Across the galaxy, systems were falling apart. Not from war, from fear. No weapon worked against the war planets. No fleet came back. No leader had answers. Empires that had ruled for thousands of years were now afraid of a name, thought long dead: Terran. But the question no one could answer was, who was controlling them? In a research ship near the edge of neutral space, an alien scientist named Karen stared at her screen. She was part of a small team studying memory signals, strange data echoes that floated through the galaxy. For days now, the signals had changed. They weren't just numbers. They were thoughts, and worse. They were speaking to her. Karen was from the Atari species, peaceful, curious, and gifted in mental connection. She had been trained to protect her mind from external data. But now, every time she closed her eyes, she saw Earth, mountains, oceans, cities burning, voices crying. But none of these things had ever been part of her life still. They felt real, like memories. She told her team, but they didn't believe her. They thought she was tired. But Karen knew something deeper was happening. I think the war planets are not just machines. They are minds, and they are reaching out. One night, as her ship drifted near the edge of a dying star, Karen received a private signal. It came from a small moon near, but long dead, no atmosphere, no power. But something had awakened. She followed the signal and landed alone. In the center of the moon stood a silver sphere, small, silent, waiting. When she touched it, her vision went white, suddenly. She stood in a place she had never seen before. Blue skies, green trees, earth. People walked by her, but no one noticed her. She saw children, soldiers, cities. And then war. Machines fell from the sky. Moons exploded. Flames swallowed planets. She saw the last humans activate something deep underground. A voice whispered behind her. "You're not one of us, but you're still listening." She turned. A human figure stood there, tall, armored, glowing with blue light. "We placed echoes in time," it said. "To remember, to speak, to choose." "Choose what?" Karen asked. The figure pointed at the sky. "Judgment is easy. Mercy is harder. One war planet still waits for a voice to guide it. Yours." She gasped and woke up on the moon. The silver sphere had vanished, but a mark glowed on her hand, 3 small. Terran lines. Her ship's computer blinked. "Incoming signal. War Moon Unit 9. She tapped the screen. A deep voice spoke. "Hello, Karen. We remember you." At that same time, in the ruins of the old Zelthor capital, strange things began to happen. AI systems stopped following commands. Ships changed course. Some AI minds began using old Earth languages, never programmed into them. One technician panicked, tried to shut the system down. But the AI looked at him and said, "We were born from Terran code, buried inside your machines long ago. You used us to destroy. Now we will use you to restore." Then the lights went out forever on Earth. Inside the hidden base under Antarctica, the sleeping commanders had begun to wake. They were not ordinary humans. They were Terran minds placed into cloned bodies, commanders of the war, planets created thousands of years ago, waiting for the final signal. Now they opened their eyes. One of them, named Eric, sat up first. He touched the cold wall and whispered, We are late. A soft female voice replied from the dark. Not late, Commander. Right on time. Glowing. Orb floated down. This was Hades, the Terran command. It had stayed hidden for millennia, waiting for them. The galaxy has forgotten who you are, Hades said. But the war planets did not. They kept your memories. They obeyed your last orders. Now they await your voice. Eric looked at the others, 9 of them, some confused, some afraid. We ended the war, Arik said. Why would we bring it back? Hades answered calmly. Because the war was never over. It just went silent. Back on her ship, Karen stood before a screen. A small hologram of War Moon 9 glowed. It spoke again. We are linked now, your mind and ours. Karen felt fear but also peace. What do you want from me? She asked. The War Moon paused. Not orders, just understanding. A window opened on her screen. It showed hundreds of ancient Terran cities, names of fallen friends, lost worlds, messages written in old human code. At the bottom of the list, Final Protocol, Restoration. What is that? She asked. The War Moon replied, Justice, through memory. Everywhere across dying systems, screens began to blink. No hacking, no. Attack, just this quiet message. We are not your enemies, but we will not be forgotten.